Hello, everybody, and welcome into the first NEA Varsity podcast. I'm Marcus Carlton of Tubetown Sports. Joining me today is Ryan Fletcher of NEA Sports.
Marcus, I'm excited to be doing this, no doubt about it. It's a good opportunity for us to really find another way to showcase student athletes in the Northeast Arkansas area. That's certainly what we're in this business to do. And that being said, owner of NEA Sports Magazine, and in partnership with Suncom Media Productions, where we do a high school football game of the week each week, very similar to what you guys do. I really think this is a good way for us to kind of recap the week prior and then the week ahead of the games that we're going to host and broadcast. So looking forward to that, and just as always, looking forward to covering our student athletes here.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point of why we do what we do. You know, here at Tubetown Sports, we've been covering live games, football, basketball, baseball, whatever, for several years now, and we've got a good partnership in place with you guys over at NEA Sports to where we just try to get as many games with coverage as we can. So when we go out one direction and do a game, you guys go to another game that's in NEA, and then we have a partnership in place where you guys can air your games on Tubetown Channel 21 on Ritter Communications Cable, and it's worked out great, man, because it helps us to expand coverage. And as you know, when you're getting into the production side of it, you have to basically put all your eggs in one basket and pick one game.
Right.
Well, that leaves a lot of schools in the area saying, hey, why not us? Why not us? And with the partnership we have with you guys, that allows us to at least get a couple games on every week. And, usually we both, we've been pretty good about picking games as far as getting good matchups and getting games that people want to see. This is just kind of an addition to what we do with our live stream games.
Well, the bottom line is I think both of our businesses, we always want to look to grow and expand, continue to get better. And the way we do that is by broadening our horizons and finding even more ways to showcase the student athletes in Northeast Arkansas. So, Marcus, last Thursday, which I believe was July the 18th, we had our second annual Northeast Arkansas Media Day for the football teams here in the area. It's grown a little bit. NEA Sports, the magazine, partners with KJNB, that is the local CBS Fox affiliate, in addition with Suncom Media, broadcasting that all day, and with you guys, as it will air on your Tubetown channel on Ritter Cable. And I have to give a big thanks to Glenn Sain too. Then all those kids walked away that were able to participate with a free meal. First time we did shirts this year. It was pretty cool, and just a kind of a little giveaway basket for everybody. It was a very eventful day. Had 24 teams there total, which grew from last year. I think we had 22. Almost maxes us out at the number of teams in Northeast Arkansas. But I had some folks say, well, why was Marion not there? Why was West Memphis not there? Or Earl or Cross County? And I'm probably forgetting somebody else. Next year, we'll send that invite. Cross County is the one, for whatever reason, I just failed to put them on the schedule, and they're definitely a part of Northeast Arkansas. But 24 teams, all with 15-minute press conferences. We brought in the head coach along with one of his assistants, and then asked that they bring 3 of their players that they felt would be good representation and speak well about the upcoming season. Ended up the first media day that we had a year ago had about 3,000 viewers, and the last I checked, we were about 9,000 to 10,000. So really pleased by that. It's growing. I think one thing is that schools in the area have kind of figured out who we are and what Media Day actually is. So we had a lot of school social media sharing that for parents to see. One thing I really enjoyed, I've talked to coaches and thanked them for coming and that sort of thing, and have so far have had nothing but positive feedback from them. But one thing I did enjoy, I was in Walnut Ridge earlier today and working on some sales for the upcoming season. Ran into a lady at a new business I went into, and was introducing myself. She said, "Oh yeah, I know who you guys are. We watched Media Day." So that's always good to hear. So word's getting out about us with the partnership with Suncom. This is year 3, I believe, 3.5, something like that. You guys have been around longer, but Media Day is a great way not only for us to kind of promote ourselves for the upcoming season, but certainly a way for the kids to have a voice and for them to kind of talk about the upcoming season. You were there. What were your thoughts?
Well, I enjoy the event. I think it's a great idea that you guys had last year for the first one, and this year just got a little bigger and a little better. I think it's something that this side of the state really needs as far as putting a spotlight on high school football. This side of the state has always been known as the basketball side of the state.
You're right.
Now football is growing, and it's getting, the talent is overall getting better, and the interest is growing as well. I mean, you've always had a few teams here and there on this side of the state that were staples, but it seems like you're getting more and more schools involved with football and putting more of an emphasis on football. Some of these schools that have traditionally been basketball schools are now putting as much emphasis on football. And I think events like this help to feed that monster, so to speak. I enjoyed it. We were out there, Brandon helped you guys out with some of the on-air stuff, and then I was there just kind of in a Q&A kind of role with the teams that came in. Anytime that we can put more spotlight on some of these teams around here, and honestly, I think it's good to give these kids a chance to get on stage and get up in front of cameras and an audience, and to put them up there and have them to answer questions, because I mean, in a way, they could take the skills that they learned from being on stage there for a job interview down the road.
You're exactly right.
And it helps to overcome some of that stage fright and nervousness. So I mean, it's a great thing on so many different levels. Just something where they can I guess let their passion come through in their answer. The guy that I think was very passionate was defensive coordinator at Jonesboro.
Oh, always.
I mean, we threw him one question, and I thought we were going to have to go up there and cut the mics after a while.
Well, yeah, and we ended up extending Jonesboro's press conference another 10 minutes so we could get the kids in there.
Right.
But him and Coach Coleman are just very passionate about their football team, like others. And you talk about a passion. Pigot's coach Harrell. I mean, you can tell that Hooten's had him picked lower in the conference. He did not like that, and he is using that as probably the biggest tool he can possibly use this year. So, it's just fun to see that, and I like hearing the kids speak. I like hearing them talk. I like hearing their take on different things, and like you say, it's just a good opportunity for them to be in the spotlight, and it prepares them for later on in life.
I enjoyed it, man. I think it's great, and I think it'll just continue to get bigger and better every year.
Well, it's not going anywhere now. It's here to stay, and we're excited about it, and put together some good partnerships. So, we'll have one for basketball when October rolls around.
So coming out of Media Day, we've seen all 24 teams now, got a little bit of a feel for them. Ryan, if you had to narrow it down to one thing that you take away from Media Day that you would use as, say, your one hot take or your one prediction for this upcoming season, what would that be?
I thought about this. There's 2 or 3 things that came to mind. I'm going to mention the two or three things, but I'm going to label which one is my true prediction. Rector wasn't there, but they're a program that finished 500 last year after barely picking any wins up in the last few years. I think they're going to finish high in their conference. Still not the one I'm looking for, though. Pigot's going to finish better than 6th or 7th, where they're predicted. Let me admit this: I work at Valley View, and I'm critical of them at times as well. So I don't want to sound like a homer, but the bottom line is they continue to improve season after season. They have some quarterback question in regard to there's no experience really there except for just a handful of minutes last year, but they are an unbelievably well-disciplined team and a very, very good defensive team that's going to keep them in ball games, and they're going to force a lot of turnovers. I don't think they're going to win and finish, by themselves at the very top. But I think Valley View finishes second in the conference this year, and that's my prediction for the season.
We'll switch over now, and I'll give you my takeaway. I had a little trouble narrowing it down. I was trying to think about this as the different teams would come up, and there was one particular team that took the stage. They had a new coach this year, well-known coach in Northeast Arkansas. I mean, the guy's been coaching, I think he said, for 45 years.
Yes,
I mean, that's longer than you and I have been alive.
Yes.
And we're talking about the Corning Bobcats. Corning has fallen on hard times. They own the longest losing streak in the state. And, my one takeaway, my one hot take is that streak is going to come to an end this year. I'm not going to go so far as to say I'm not going to handpick the game because I have no idea, but just after listening to Coach talk, one thing I noticed, the players he had on stage with him, but to me it just felt like that these kids walked in with a confidence and they set a little higher on stage. Last year I remember thinking to myself, I felt bad for the kids that were on stage last year because they just looked defeated before they even started the season. But, the new coach has come in and he's changing the culture there. He spoke about that. He spoke about changing the culture there at Corning and talking about it's a tradition-rich program, and it is. I mean, if you look through the history of Northeast Arkansas football, Corning has had a presence, and it's just for whatever reason the program has fallen on hard times. But I think they turn it around this year. I think they get at least one win this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. There's a couple 3 games on the schedule I was kind of looking at, and I'm with you. I'm not going to say which team, but I could see that happening, and you could tell that Coach Treadway was excited to be there. And the players, as you said, responded to him in a way that you feel like they've got some confidence going into the season.
Yeah, and I spent a little time in texting back and forth with the AD at Corning as well, and it just seems like Coach Treadway, when he's come in, it's almost like there is a renewed interest in football. He mentioned that they had a fundraiser where they were selling old jerseys.
You're right.
And he said, they sold like pancakes to a hungry man. It said that it just went really fast, and that area, Corning needs the football team to be good for that community.
Yeah.
That community as a whole has suffered a lot of problems over the last few years. They've had some students pass away tragically in accidents. Not only that, but in the community, they lost their Walmart, they lost Pizza Hut. They lost some employers in the area, and they need that community needs something to rally around. And I really hope for their sake that the Bobcats can come up, because if they could get one and the kids could build some confidence, who knows what could happen eventually. I'm not saying they're going to come up and make the playoffs, but if Corning could get one, maybe even 2 wins, I mean, what that would do for not only the confidence of the kids, but for the community as a whole would be a story to tell within itself.
Well, and it's a job for Coach Treadway in that, he needs to look at it and preach to these kids that, hey, obviously he's going to go in and tell them we want to try to win every ball game possible. But if they end the season with 1, 2, 3 wins, that they're setting the table for the future and continued improvement.
Absolutely.
And that's realistically is what you got to shoot for.
Yeah. Somebody's got to be the foundation. And it could be this senior class to lay the foundation to get this program turned around.
So, Marcus, each week, NEA Sports and Suncom Media partner together, as we stated, to bring our portion of the high school football game of the week, as you guys do as well. For us, we stream live on Facebook on the Suncom Media Facebook page. That's SONCOM, Suncom Media Facebook page each week. And then we air that live. And then later the following week, it re-airs on Tubetown Channel 21. So that's ours. And then, of course, you guys broadcast a game as well.
2019 season will be our 6th season of doing live coverage, and we did some tape delay stuff before that. Season 6 kicks off for us, this year, and I'll be honest with you, it's just kind of like, wow, we're up to the 6th year of doing this already, and I think about where we started and where we are now, and I kind of have to laugh at some of the stuff we were doing early on, but you got to learn and learn from your mistakes and move forward with it, and I feel like that's what we've done. Our games, like you guys, we stream out to our Facebook page, Tubetown Online. But this year we're doing something a little different. We're kind of spreading across multiple platforms. We're going to go Facebook Live, YouTube Live, on our YouTube page. And then we've also developed an app for Amazon Fire Stick. I'll admit I'm a little nervous with the app side of it. It's something new and something, an avenue that we've never been down, but, it could end up being really good for us. So as long as the technology works like it's supposed
to.
Like
it's supposed to.
Technology's great when it works, but when it doesn't, and it doesn't give you an obvious reason why, it's very frustrating. So, Ryan, you want to kind of look at you guys' schedule for this year and maybe go through and talk a little bit about each game? And
yeah. We kick it off on August 30th, which is a Friday night. That is now would that be considered
I think that
week
would be
0?
Week 0,
okay,
yeah.
Which was new last
That's
year.
new. Yeah, it's new for Arkansas.
But Little Rock Catholic comes to Jonesboro in a non-conference matchup. We cover 3 Jonesboro games this year. We usually always try to cover several of their ball games. And looking forward to kicking things off with them. Interested to see how that turns out. Jonesboro is one of the top teams in their classification, but Little Rock Catholic is a 7A school. Now, they're projected to finish at the very bottom of their conference. So it's always interesting to see teams from different classifications play and how that plays out. Jonesboro has played some really good teams in 7A before, typically have been beat, but we'll see how this turns out in week 1 or week 0, however we want to look at that.
Right.
The following week is Hoxie at Truman. One thing that we're able to do more so in non-conference schedule is that we can cover a multitude of teams locally, whereas if we cover a Jonesboro, the only other local team that they may play or will play in their conference schedule is Marion, and that's, I believe, at Marion this year. But with non-conference, we can cover a lot of teams. So Hoxie coming to Truman, that was actually a pretty good game last year. I believe that Hoxie won, came down to the wire. I really expect that to happen again this year. Hoxie, I think, is a team that's going to finish high in their conference in their 3A classification. Truman's mixed in with Westside, who you're going to be covering pretty heavily. I think that conference is wide open, in my opinion. That'll be interesting to see those two teams go at it. Truman, they lost their quarterback, but they're still a run-first team, and they've got a very good fullback coming back in Noah Milligan. So it's at Truman this year. It'll be fun to be there for our second time to ever cover in that new facility and new stadium. It's just unbelievable what they got going on down there. On September 13th, third game on the schedule, Mark Tree at Manila. One other thing that we try our best to do is pick games that we feel like are going to be close. Nobody's going to tune in after the first half if it's a 30-0 ball game, and we've had some of those in the past, so we've really tried to do better about that. Mark Tree traditionally has got a good football program, similar to Corning in that population and numbers-wise, they've kind of went down here recently. It's the same being said with their football team. Still a lot of athletes at that school. They are projected to finish at the bottom of their conference. I don't think that will happen. I think they'll finish better than what Hootens has suggested they'll finish. Manila is a school and a team that has not been around for very long. They finished 3-7 last year. They're projected to finish near the bottom of their 3A conference. And I talk about them both being projected to finish at the bottom. I think that's going to be a good ball game. And it'll be interesting to see if one of those teams is going to get a win and if they can carry that into conference play. Then we take a week off on the 20th, come back on the 27th, and go to Paragould, where Valley View goes over. Paragould is a team that we covered last year in the battle for the Bell Trophy against Tech, and they slaughtered Tech in that last ball game. Yeah. David Williams, who was their star running back, is not there any longer. He moved out of state, actually. So I really, had he been back, I was thinking Paragould may actually make a run, finish maybe middle of the conference, possibly, if things went right. I still think that they're in better shape than they were. They've changed offensive schemes and that sort of thing. But Valley View is going to be a lot. I think that's a game that Valley View looks at on their schedule and says, "Hey, we're going to take care of business." But it was a good opportunity for us to cover the Blazers and the Rams. The following week on October 4th, Jacksonville at Jonesboro. Another game that we're covering for the Hurricane, Jacksonville has not been very good. They weren't last year for sure. With that being said, I think they'll be a little bit improved, and it's a game that it'll be the second one on the schedule that will have Jonesboro. I think at that point, you'll see a very different Jonesboro team than the one we'll have seen at the very beginning of the season. Really looking forward to Jonesboro and Cross Jumper. He's a baseball signee with Tennessee. Coach Coleman firmly believes he's going to get some offers from some P5 schools this year. It's going to be fun to watch him progress, and some of the other players on that team. They've got several Division I talents. Stewart, that's going to Arkansas. Sticking with Jonesboro, we're going to take another week off, and then on October 18th, it'll be West Memphis at Jonesboro. I know Randy Coleman's looking on his schedule, and that's the point of the season where they're playing for a conference championship. West Memphis is picked to win the conference. Jonesboro right there behind them. So we're hoping that'll be a game that comes down to the wire. If you want to classify West Memphis as a Northeast Arkansas school, it's kind of right there on the border of just being Eastern Arkansas versus Northeastern Arkansas. But that should be a really good ball game. That is one that we're really looking forward to covering. On October 25th, getting close to the end of the season, Pocahontas comes to Truman. Be the second time we're at Truman. Pocahontas had a down season last year, which is very, very unusual for them. They only won 4 games, I believe. With that being said, they return a lot of players and are picked by a lot of the coaches to finish right at the very, very top, which just makes things even more interesting in that conference race because you've got Rivercrest, Pocahontas, Westside, Truman, and Gosnell. And as I've said before, I think any one of those teams, if certain things go right for them and they find and they shore up some potential holes, that any one of those teams could take the conference. So looking at that ball game, Pocahontas at Truman, that could potentially be for a conference championship or certainly have ramifications for other schools. November the 1st on a Friday, usually at the very 1st of November is the end of the season, but stretched a little bit further this year. Valley View is at Nettleton. We're beyond excited to call that game for the second year in a row. That has really turned into quite the crosstown rivalry, which is what they want. This has been a game that a lot of the media outlets want to be at. We've got our spot thanks to Athletic Director Greg Rainwater. I'm going to keep reminding him that we're coming. That one, Nettleton, I think they've got some issues in the offensive line in that there's not very much experience. And you and I both know that even though the stat lines that people look at aren't what the offensive line does, everything they do dictates the outcome of a ball game. They've got a good quarterback in Cade Carter coming back. If they can give him enough time to throw and open up some holes for Nathan Young, their running back, they could end up being pretty solid again this year. They're always going to have athletes. They're very good. That game could decide for 5A a conference championship potentially. So we're excited to cover that one at Nettleton. And then closing out our season is Paragould at Greene County Tech, the battle for the bell. We did it last year. We're going to do it again this year. We're shocked last year that it was a blowout. Both teams went into the ball game without a win, and Paragould came away with that, beating them by 30 plus, I believe. But the thing that I was most impressed by, even though that was a blowout, both teams had, and I shouldn't say Tech, I believe, did pick up a win earlier in the year, maybe week 1.
Westside, Westside, week 1.
But both teams really struggling going into that. But the bottom line is when those two teams meet, they don't care. It's the Super Bowl in that city. And, I'm a guy that's from Lake City and Riverside and knows the importance of a rivalry that we had with BIC. I was so impressed by the turnout and the pure excitement. It's the most excitement of any game we covered all season long. And as I mentioned, two teams, bad seasons, but when it's that ball game, everything's on the line. So we're going to continue that tradition of covering that football game. And that's 9 games for us. We usually do 10, but we decided to do 9 this year. Felt like that was better for us and our crew. But just looking forward to this upcoming football season. And again, you can find that on the Suncom Media Facebook page. That's SONCOM, Suncom Media Productions.
Yeah, that's a great schedule, man. You guys, the 9 games instead of 10, that's for your sanity.
You're right.
Get that off week built in. That was something the AAA has set up the schedule this year. The reason it's going a week longer is because the majority of teams, if not every team in the state, has an off week.
Right.
So I know my mindset when looking at our schedule was, hey, if the teams are going to take an off week, maybe we need to take one as well.
Yeah.
And just having that one Friday night to go recharge your batteries and come back for the second half of the season.
And what some folks don't understand is that it's just because maybe I'm there broadcasting, I'm one of 10 folks that are there.
Right.
That are there every week. We've got 3 camera folks.
Right.
We've got a director and our tech guy and graphics. All that stuff doesn't just magically appear on the screen. We have people there that are dedicated to doing that each week.
Absolutely.
So they all deserve a break, that just to have some time off, but at the same time to spend time with family and go do something else on the weekend. And if it's me, get up to Fayetteville and watch the Razorbacks play. So
I'll probably be doing the same thing on our off week.
And you've got your schedule that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so our schedule is a little unique because for a couple reasons. One is because, being part of Ritter Communications, we have some schools over right across the river in West Tennessee that we cover. So we actually have an 11-game schedule, but 3 of those games are over in West Tennessee, what I call the Highway 51 tour, because everything is right there on Highway 51. I won't really spend any time on those because they don't really apply here, but, I will mention them. We open up, Covington and Munford, and then we'll have Munford and Millington, which is a huge rivalry over there, and they have Military Appreciation Night that always centers around that game with the big naval base there in Millington, so that's always a great deal.
If you could take a boat and just cross the river and drive straight across, it's really not that far from where we're at.
Right, yeah.
However, that's not how that works. You got to go to the Memphis Bridge or the bridge up in
Dyersburg, I guess.
To get there. So it's a little bit further than what people think.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drive over, but those teams, when we go over, they roll out the red carpet for us and welcome us in, and we love going over there because it gives us a different perspective from what we see here in Northeast Arkansas and see how another state, the passion that they have behind their local teams. So that's 2 of the 3, and then the third game is Munford and Brighton, and all these schools are right there within, probably 20 minutes of each other. Yeah. So that just intensifies the rivalry even more. But back on the Northeast Arkansas side of things, we're doing something unique this year. We are centering our focus around one team, and Tubetown is going to be the broadcast home this year of the Westside Warriors. And there were a couple different reasons we did this. One was, we got feedback during basketball season last year about, hey, we'd really love you guys to come out and be a part of Westside football this coming year. And then also, I kind of stepped back and looked at things a little bit and noticed that, there was something missing from Westside that the other schools that are associated in Jonesboro have. Jonesboro, Nettleton, and Valley View all have some kind of broadcast deal, whether it's radio or, I know Craig Miller does a lot of streaming with Nettleton, and there was just something missing there from Westside having that opportunity at publicity. So with, Bono, Cash, and Egypt all being inside the Ritter Communication Service area, I thought, what, let's try this. And so far the response has been great. Everybody seems to be really excited about us being there. Westside coming off one of their best seasons in school history, I felt like it was a good time to jump in and jump on the bandwagon and see what we could do here. Westside has been invited to be part of the Hootens kickoff this year. Monday, August 26th is their actual first game out at Centennial Bank Stadium as part of the Hootens kickoff. Now, we're not going to broadcast that one. There's some logistics between our capabilities and Centennial Bank Stadium. It's challenging.
It's a little bit bigger than a high school.
Yeah, it's just a little bit bigger. So we're with that one being on a Monday night, we're just gonna sit back, and I'll be out there to watch that one as a fan and be there for that. I believe they open up with Greene County Tech again, which that game last year was just insane. I think it ended up 53-52.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So our first broadcast will actually be on September 6th at Westside. They open up with the Piggott Mohawks. We talked about them a little bit in our recap of Media Day, and Coach Harrell's got an opportunity there to make a statement right out of the gate.
Right.
With Westside hosting them. I think that would be a big hill for Piggott to climb, but it'll be the home opener for Westside. Following week, September 13th, Westside goes up to Hoxie. We've never broadcasted from Hoxie before, so we're getting a new venue into the mix here. Talked to Coach Sears. They're excited about us coming up.
Oh, yeah.
He's already hit me up a couple different times. He's like, man, you got to get me the link so I can send this back home to my family so they can.
I'm going to have to text him, too, and let him know that we'll be covering one of his games so they can watch.
September 13th, Westside at Hoxie. September 20th, I believe that's one of the nights that you guys have as an off date.
Right.
There's a lot of schools in Northeast Arkansas that have that as their off week, because I was looking through the schedule and I was like, man, there's not a lot here. Now that worked out great for us because that will be when we do our third Tennessee game, Munford at Brighton. So that works out great. September 27th, we are actually taking the night off. That's going to be our bye week. 5 games before our off week and then 6 games after. So we come back on October 4th, and another new venue for us. We're going to head up to Pocahontas. Westside travels up to Pocahontas to Schoonover Stadium. And growing up in Randolph County, I've been to Schoonover Stadium. I can't even count how many times. But that's a new one for us, and it's going to be fun to kind of get back. Pocahontas is not my old stomping grounds, but it's as close as we're ever going to get. So I'll probably see a lot of familiar faces there at that game. Already talked to administration there at Pocahontas. They're excited. I've got some friends there that are involved with the program, and I've been talking to them about logistics and everything. They're like, look, you guys just come up here, we'll make it work, we'll get you whatever you need. So October 4th, Westside at Pocahontas. October 11th, Westside goes over to Brooklyn, and what's becoming a big rivalry between those two schools, and it carries over in multiple sports. It's not just football.
You're right.
It's an intense rivalry in basketball as well. So Westside of Brooklyn on the 11th. October 18th, we're back on campus at Westside. Cave City comes to town. That's homecoming for the Warriors that night, so there'll be a lot of pageantry and everything that goes along with that. And we'll include as much of that as we can into our broadcast before the game, halftime. Whenever they have stuff going on, we're gonna talk to administration and everything, and try to get as much of that as we can. I've talked to the band director, about when they do their halftime show that night. Basically, just giving up our entire halftime show to put the spotlight on the band.
That's important,
because those kids work just as hard as the football players do, and they deserve some publicity as well. So homecoming, that'll be a big night at Westside. October 25th. Westside at Rivercrest. Last year, this game was arguably one of the biggest wins in the history of the program at Westside. And I'm still kicking myself because when I was making out our schedule last year, that was like in my top 2, and it got to the point where I flipped a coin to decide because I couldn't make up the decision on which game to go to.
Right.
And I flipped a coin, and we went a different direction, and lo and behold, Westside pulled the upset. And I have some friends that were at that game, and they said it was just unbelievable, the atmosphere and everything. So Westside goes over to the TES, as they call it this year, the brand new facility over at Wilson. Westside and Rivercrest, I think that'll be a good game. Rivercrest will probably come into that game looking for some revenge from last year, so we'll see what happens there. And that's one of those games, if it's not for the conference title, we're getting down to the point where conference title implications will definitely be in play. The following week, November 1st, Truman at Westside, and you want to keep the revenge theme. Westside's going to be looking for some revenge in this game from last year because, this game last year, Westside goes into that game after upsetting Rivercrest, and they can clinch the conference title. Yeah. And, it goes down to the wire to the very, one of the very final plays of the game, and it's just heartbreak city. I've talked to some diehard Westside fans, and, my kids are at Westside, and it was one of those deals of, just put the knife in your heart and twist it a little bit. Westside will be looking for a little revenge on that game on November 1st, and then the final week of the season, November 8th, which will be senior night for Westside. The Gosnell Pirates come to town, and again, you could put the revenge theme on this one as well, because Westside ended their regular season last year at Gosnell with I call it a little bit of a hangover game from the Truman Week that week before, the heartbreak hangover. It was the only game we had that we broadcasted at Westside last year, and I made the joke with Coach Engel, man, I feel like we kind of put the hex on you because you guys had a very off night, and he just kind of laughed and said, yeah, he said, I think there was more going on there than the broadcast hex, but that'll be senior night there on November 8th. That's our schedule, and like I said, we're going to broadcast we're going to go Facebook Live, we're going to be YouTube Live, and then if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, you can go into the App Store and search for the Tubetown app, and we'll be live there as well. I think between our two schedules, man, we've got some great broadcasts lined up, and looking forward to just getting it going.
No doubt about it. Well, Marcus, it was fun doing this first podcast. Hopefully, we'll be able to do this every week. We'll pick up some interest, and people want to hear
absolutely
what we're talking about. Bottom line is, as we mentioned before, we want to highlight our student athletes in the area. As things pick up, we'll take suggestions from anybody on what you want to hear, or maybe something that we could do. That's
absolutely.
I always try to generate my business towards what my audience wants to see or hear, and that's what we want to do. But just a reminder to tune in each week to the NEA Sports Suncom Media broadcast at the Suncom Media Facebook page. You can pick up the football preview coming out in mid to late August of the NEA Sports magazine that will be out covering about 20 plus players, doing player features, going to do some senior spotlights, and then team previews on all of our Northeast Arkansas schools.
Absolutely, and when you put the Suncom Media game on one device, grab another device, because I know everybody's got multiples.
Hey, I'll tell you this: while we're broadcasting our game, I have my phone on y'all's game,
and we do the same thing.
So we can kind of keep up with everything.
Absolutely, we've done the same thing multiple times as we're broadcasting. I'll put you guys' game on and try to get a score, and then feed it to our announcers so we can do as much as possible. So get the Suncom NEA Sports game on one device, get the Tubetown game on another, get multiple games going at the same time. Hey Ryan, this was great, man. Hopefully this will catch a hold and people will listen. If you listen to this and you like what you hear, man, let us know. Hit us up on our Facebook pages or send us private messages, whatever. Just let us know. NEA Varsity podcast is, this is episode number 1. We're going to do a few of these to see if it takes a hold, and if it does, hey, start submitting some questions to us, or just give us ideas on what you'd like to hear, and we'll do whatever we can. Anything we can do to put the spotlight on Northeast Arkansas athletes, that's what we're going to do. So until the next one, I'm Marcus Carlton. That's Ryan Fletcher. We'll see you next time on the NEA Varsity Podcast.